Let's take a look at how to reamp with the 11 rack in Pro Tools 11. Now here we are in Pro Tools 11. I have my 11 rack standalone editor open. If you don't have this, you can download it for free. That way you can use the editor inside of Pro Tools 11 or another DAW. So now we are ready to record our guitar part. So I have my rig input set to guitar, and you can also do this from the front panel of the 11 rack, but it's set on guitar. That's what we want. I have a stereo track in this case set up. You can also use a mono track. For this video, I'm just going to use a stereo track. So I have the input of that, of course, set to 11 rig. The rig sound is the sound of the whole rig. And because I know I may want to reamp later on from this guitar tone, I also want to record just the dry guitar sound. And that would, sound like this here. Just the dry guitar, no amp, effects, nothing like that. Just whatever's coming from my guitar. So to do that, we have set up a mono audio track, and up here in the input, we want to choose guitar in. Okay, so guitar is just the sound of the guitar. 11 rig is the sound of the rig. All right, so now we are ready to record. So we'll arm both tracks, and because we don't want that dry sound and the dirty sound at the same time while we're trying to lay down our riff, we'll mute that dry guitar sound. So now we are ready to record, and the top track will be the wet track or the affected track, our actual rig, and this bottom track, the dry guitar, is just the sound of the guitar. So our tracks are already record enabled, and now we'll just record here. Have a little count off, and we'll just play something here. So there we go. Now we can see the difference between these tracks. So right there is the rig sound. You can see that much smaller is the dry guitar sound, and that's exactly what you would expect. So now let's say we're ready to reamp. We don't like this guitar sound. We want a different guitar sound. So I'm going to go ahead and mute that track. I'm also done with my guitar, so I can take that off and set it down now. So if we liked the performance, but we just didn't like the sound, we can reamp. And here's how to do that. This is very easy. So first I'll unmute my dry guitar sound. And now we need to change the output, okay? So output, and now I want reamp. Now you can choose reamp, left, right, reamp 1, reamp 2 mono. If one sounds better to you for your particular rig, then choose that one. It's the same concept either way. And then right here, I have another mono audio track set up, and then here's a stereo audio track. Now you can reamp to either one of these, either a mono or a stereo. All you need to do is set the input to 11 rig. So this is a mono, so I can choose left or right. I'll just choose left. And this is a stereo, so input would be 11 rig. Now it may sound odd that we're choosing the same input we used while we were actually physically playing the guitar, but the difference is we come up here to rig input of the 11 rack. And again, you can do this from the front panel. You don't need the editor to change the rig input. But under rig input, simply click the down arrow or from the front panel, and you'll want to choose the rig input to be reamp. So now this dry guitar track is being sent out into the 11 rack and processing through our rig input. See, reamp, the output is reamp, the rig input for the 11 rack is reamp, okay? So just match those two up and you've got it, because this track will now be sent through this amp, through this whole signal chain now, because we have the rig input set to reamp. Now from there, we need some way to monitor what is coming out for the rig output. We need something to monitor, and that's where the other audio tracks come in. So again, you can use mono or stereo. Just make sure you choose the input of 11 rig, okay? 11 rig. So now if I wanted to use the stereo track, I can do that. I'll just arm it, and I'm using Pro Tools HD right now, so I'll actually just monitor this track. And as soon as I hit play, you see that? This track is being sent out through our 11 rack rig and then sent back into Pro Tools so we can hear it. So I can change rigs on the fly here. So it's just as easy as that. And again, I could do this with a mono track. So we'll just do that real quick just to show you it works. We'll just choose a rig at random here and hit play. All right, so it's just that easy. There's no magic to it at all. And whenever you have, say, played through your track over and over and, switched rigs over and over till you find that perfect rig, made the adjustments, you could even click that little square there and get this little preset window that you can go through and change rigs real quick. Let's hit play. So that's another way you can cycle through your rigs. But after you are done and you've chosen your perfect rig, all that's left now is to record. Now you may remember when we were physically playing the guitar, we muted this dry track because we didn't want them both playing at the same time while we were recording. Make sure you unmute this track when you're reamping, because if the reamp is muted, then the 11 rack is not getting signal, because again, the input is reamp and the output for the dry track is reamp. So you don't want that muted in this case, because you're not going to hear the dry track, because the dry track is not coming out of your mains, it's going into the 11 rack rig. So now we've chosen our perfect rig. I'll just cycle through some here and we're ready to record. Again, either mono or stereo, it doesn't matter. I'll just do a mono in this case, so it's record enabled. All right, so right down here is our track. This track that we'll be recording to, this dry signal will be sent out to the 11 rack. The input will then be recorded right here. So we have everything set up. All we have to do is record. And now the count off is happening. There we go. And one more thing I'll mention, after you're done reamping, if you go back to start playing another guitar part and you don't get any sound, don't freak out. Make sure you come up here to rig input and check what it's set at. If you have reamp selected for your rig input and then you go again to record, where the input here for the interface, where you're choosing 11 rig, and you just start playing your guitar, you're not going to hear anything because the 11 rack is not monitoring the guitar signal. So you'll have to come back up here and just change that to guitar. Then you can play as normal. So that is how you would reamp with the 11 rack in Pro Tools 11.